Good morning.
And start recording. And we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, guys, to the Tuesday Notary Titans call for Tuesday, February 19th, 2019. If you're doing any signings today, that's a pretty easy date to sign, 2/19/19. We're going to go ahead. And so today is pretty casual. There's no lessons. Laura is teaching a class. It's just going to be Carol Ray and I just answering some of the great questions that you have submitted. We also have plenty of time today to ask live questions. So we're probably going to start with that. If you're on the call and you have some live questions for us, we'll go ahead and take those. You can either type them into the chat window, you can use the Zoom functionality to raise your hand, or you can just unmute yourself and ask away. And then we have a ton of them on the PowerPoint presentation as well. And I think I have talked in circles enough. I'm waiting to see if Carol's going to jump in there. It's a lot more fun when there's multiple perspectives. There she is. Carol Ray, welcome. Uh-oh. I'm going to give Carol just a couple minutes to...
Can you hear me, Bill?
Hi, yes, I can hear you. We cannot see you.
Okay, my mic is working because it wasn't working. Good morning.
Good morning. Do you want to turn your camera on today?
Hell no. No. Well, I combed my hair. So.
Step one complete.
So you don't have to worry about that. And definitely Des does not have to worry about that.
All right. Well, good. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for joining us on a Tuesday. I know you're extremely busy right now, too. So I just really appreciate that you jump in here. And I know, just like me, you really look forward to these Tuesday
I do
calls as well. Carol, you excited about anything this week?
Yeah, but a lot of just ongoing stuff. One of them actually has to do with a question that somebody asked. And so when we start talking about that, I'll bring it up.
Easy enough. All right. Sounds good. All right. Wonderful. All right. Well, let's jump in. And does anybody have any questions that's on the live call right now? You've taken time out of your day. Do you have any questions, burning questions? If you had not submitted them already, and even if you did, you can feel free to jump in and ask. There's absolutely no pressure. I know nobody wants to be the first one, so we can jump into the PowerPoint if you prefer.
Judy's great at asking questions.
Judy's always great at asking questions.
Not today.
No, not today.
All right, let's jump in and do the presentation. Whoops.
Oh, there's one thing I do want to say. It's all right. Today, we were supposed to have 2 guests. And because of the timing and some other things that are going on, they were not able to be with us. But on March the 5th, we're going to have Tamara Steets with Executive Notary Services out of Texas, who started as a notary signing agent and now has a very successful and flourishing signing agency. And Mark Fleming, I think most everybody knows of Mark, who owns Signature Closers. And he, too, will be joining us on the 5th. And I think it's going to be interesting because what I've asked them to do is to talk about their signing agencies from their perspective, some of the difficulties that they have run across, and what they're coming across now in today's world. Things have changed a lot for them. And there's a lot of give and take, things that they were very staunch about for years. They're having to kind of buckle a little bit. So I think that's going to be really interesting. I'm very excited to have them.
I think that's going to be some really great perspective, just so we can all understand the different sides of everything that's going on, for sure. And then we do have one question from Kat about e-signings. And if you don't mind, Carol, maybe what I'll say here is that next week we're actually going to dive in pretty deep on e-signings and remote signings, and in particular the law that's coming up or the ballot measure in California that specifically talks about the upcoming law. And the interesting thing about ballots or laws in California is that tends to have a tremendous impact on the laws of the rest of the country.
Rest of the country, yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're going to have a great conversation. So Kat, if it's all right with you, I'm just going to table that question in particular until next week, and we'll dive in super deep on that.
We put Laura on it.
Yeah, Laura is on it. Our in-house law nerd. I love it. Okay, so Melissa asks, what are your thoughts about using QuickBooks or Wave for invoicing? Carol, any opinions on your bookkeeping?
Yeah, I do. Over the years, don't forget, I was a signing agent for 14 years, and I explored every possible way to help me with my bookkeeping data, all of that, tracking of everything. And to be honest with you, I tried Excel, I tried Word, I tried QuickBooks. I tried even the more expensive version, not QuickBooks, but, I tried Quicken QuickBooks. There was nothing that really did it all for me. And I hate to sound like a walking ad. There's two choices out there. My choice is Notary Assist. I started using it, years ago. And it makes it so easy, and it's so inexpensive. Because you not only can do your invoicing, but you keep track of your customers. Every time that you get a signing from the same customer, you've got all their information in that arena. You have all of your invoices paid and not paid. You keep track of all of your signings. There's not a signing that you do that's not in that record. So that if you go back, like a lot of times my husband and I would go back for a second signing or third signing, and we would say, oh, that sounds familiar. And we'd look back in our records and we find out, oh, we were there last year, or we've been there twice. It just keeps track of everything. And the best thing, your expenses and all of that. Best thing is when it comes to tax time with these programs, Notary Assist and Notary Gadget, I think that's about it. You just run the reports. My husband used to tell me, would you run the reports for me when it was tax time? And he had everything that he needed to take care of our taxes. So that's my answer to it. It's just, that's the way I did it for years.
Yeah, exactly. And yes, to answer the question, you can track mileage and notarial acts in Notary Assist and in Notary Gadget. It's really designed for everything mobile notary and loan signing agents. So it's like having a custom software for you. Now, I don't actually use it either, but I really should. I'm just pretty stubborn when it comes to sticking to what I know. And right now I use GoDaddy Bookkeeping, and it makes making invoices and, again, tracking customers, doing all the reporting super, super simple as well. The reality is there is incredible technology out there that does all of this stuff for us. If you're just starting out, though, and you have a kind of a leg up from people like Carol and I who, when we came into the industry, we did not have those things. So a lot of times we just stick with what we know. But if you start out using Notary Gadget or Notary Assist, you can be ahead of the game. And it does everything for you. It's worth the investment.
Well, it tracks when you're going to a signing, it gives you your directions and everything. It's not just a matter of calculating the mileage. It's like everything is there.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Excellent. So I don't know what the price differences are. In fact, I would just highly recommend that you guys do your own independent research on that and figure it out. I know that graduates of Notary to Pro get a discount on Notary Assist, so check that out.
30-day free trial and 25% off.
Nice. Does GoDaddy have an app that you can use? GoDaddy, it does. I don't care for the app on the GoDaddy bookkeeping. I just use their web version on my phone. So it's very efficient. That's one of the 4 things that I do after every single signing is generate the invoice or notify the signing company if that's the situation that you're in. So I just do it right there from my car on my phone after every single appointment. Let's see. I understand there's a new uniform loan application coming out soon. I got that from the NNA announcement. Do you have any additional pre-info on that? I actually have got a chance to review a few of them that are coming across. They're pretty long, and they're not approved yet. So as far as I know, the new 1003 has not been approved, so I wouldn't freak out too much about it.
I want to bring something up with the 1003, and I can't remember if we've discussed it before because I discussed it so many times with my students.
Uh-huh.
At the top of the 1003, the residential loan application, as it stands now, there is a small paragraph, and it says, if this is a joint loan, in other words, if there's more than one person borrowing money, and this is the loan application for it, then they need to sign at the top. But what I have seen over the years, over and over again, and I'm wondering if anybody else has run into this, is that if you've got a single borrower, that single borrower should not be signing, because it's very clear that it said if this is a joint application, the applicant shall sign here and here. And yet, if you don't have them sign, even if it's one applicant, what happens? And has it happened to other people where the lender will call you and say, you didn't get them to sign?
All the time. And it's not always just the lender. Yeah, exactly. Logic does not prevail in this case. We talk about it so often. The general safe rule, right, Carol, is just to have the borrower sign it. Now, here's the complicating factor, and I talk about this in my course quite a bit too, is sometimes on the 1003, they'll require initials as well. So that complicates things, because if there's no initials and you have a single borrower sign, if the lender doesn't need it signed, they just toss that out and they replace it with an unsigned version. Easy fix for them. And all bases are covered. Where it gets complicated is if they have to sign and initial, then regardless of whether it's a joint application or not, that still has to be initialed. So if they sign an initial, but they didn't need it to sign, the lender cannot just print out another blank one now. It still needs to be initialed. So I like to be proactive in that. So I'll actually use the borrower copy, and I'll have the borrower sign and initial, and then do one where they just initial. So all bases are covered. You send them both back and hopefully avoid any complicated situations. Carol, does that sound familiar?
Yeah, it sure does.
Okay.
Cool. I had a closing last night, and on the instructions, it clearly stated, unless there are two Social Security numbers listed, only one signs.
I love it when they're that clear, and I love it when logic prevails in this business. And I love it so much because it's actually pretty rare. So just be ready for that as you're coming through it. Okay, so let's, there was one thing that I'd really like you to address, Carol, because you are specifically in California, if you don't mind. It's the credible witnesses in California. We can do a general one for everybody else too, because it affects some states, not others. But can you specifically talk about California and credible witness?
I don't know, because to be honest with you, even though I was a notary signing agent here in California, I was very much more in Arizona.
Arizona, yeah.
Yeah, but normally I just have everybody. I mean, every state is different, so everybody has to know exactly what their state requires. For us, I use an affidavit. I use the credible witness affidavit. Have them, do the affidavit, sign the book, and the whole thing. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah,
there was just one question in there, and they put some, there's been some reference links already in the chat window. So that's just the general rule is know what the credible witness laws are, and know that in some states, guys, it's not allowable as well. So you can't always use a credible witness in every state.
That's right.
And then also in some states that we're finding is the credible witness has to be known by both the notary and the signer, or the signer has to know both the signer and the credible witness. So that really complicates things and jams things up a little bit and almost eliminates being able to use a credible witness.
That's the way it is in Tennessee.
Yeah. So just you want to dive in and know what you can and cannot do. And if you are in a state that allows credible witness, like Carol said, use a credible witness affidavit. Those can be found online, or you can generate your own, or sometimes the state actually provides them for you. And a lot of times that won't, if it's not a loan signing, it's probably just going to be for your records, but that's part of your due diligence and part of your record keeping, just to validate the identity of that person. The other thing on that note, like if you're doing a general notary work, and let's say somebody forgot their ID or lost their ID or whatever it is, and they're using two credible witnesses to validate the identity, that's for your information only. You don't have to pass that on to whoever. That does not have to accompany the document in most states. That's just so you get an idea of what the identity is. That's like their driver's license now. You've got two credible witnesses. That's like the driver's license. So you validate the ID, and then you can notarize the document and proceed. You don't have to attach documentation with that. The exception to that will be with loan signings, because probably the closing agent is going to want that backup material for their records as well. Anything to add in on that, Carol?
Not for me, but see, I'm in a funny position because even though I live in California and for a while was a notary signing agent in California, I have to be very much aware of what I'm teaching my students based on the state that they're in. So that's the first thing we do, is go after the law of their state and then decide how to handle it.
Exactly. All right. Let's see. I'm getting buried in the questions there, but if we've missed any, feel free to chime in or give me a heads up or ask it again there. Please explain co-signer versus co-borrower and the need to differentiate the two on the signature lines. Carol, do you have some insight on that?
Quite honestly, a co-signer is almost always the co-borrower. I mean, a co-signer you would use on a car loan or something, but a co-borrower is on the application. There's borrower, co-borrower. I mean, I'm not sure I'm understanding, but I don't think if somebody's signing the application, they're listed as a co-borrower. They are a co-borrower.
Yeah, that's it's not like other transactions, like on a vehicle where somebody just co-signs and that they just use their credit or their income. The mortgage is a full-on process. That person's getting qualified as a co-borrower. What I've noticed is there's usually one additional form for a co-signer, and it's just notifying them that even though they don't live in the house, that they are still responsible for the repayment of this loan. There's usually one form that just says co-signer form. I've only seen that a few times. That's when it's designated that they're going to be a co-signer, usually a parent or a grandparent for a younger person. But they're all going to be on all the other additional documents as a co-borrower. Mm-hmm. Great. Okay, let's jump into the PowerPoint here and ask some more or answer some more questions. Okay, let's see. And okay, these are cleaned up from last week, so these should all be fresh questions. My question is, how do you get work from the different companies being a new signing agent when they require 2 or more years of experience or the 50 signing minimum? I know we've talked about this a little bit, Carol, but can you give me kind of what you tell your students?
Well, I tell them to be honest, for one thing. Don't ever fudge or lie. It's not worth it ever. However, they do have the advantage of having the list of companies that have been hiring Notary to Pro graduates for years, and they, for the most part, will put them to work right away, which is good. It's up to them, to make sure that they do a good job. But for most of us, when we started, listen, it was no different with me. I, as an escrow officer for years, as an escrow manager, running 2 companies, I did tens of thousands of documents over the years. And yet when I went out on my own and became a mobile notary signing agent, which was kind of brand new at that time, you call these companies and they were like, well, how many signings have you done? Well, as an escrow officer manager, I've done plenty, but I'm a brand new mobile signing agent. And it was terrible because we all had this feeling back then. I don't know how people really feel today, but back then it was like, they won't give me work because I haven't had work. How do I get the work to get the work to get the work? Mm-hmm. And it was very frustrating. I think for most people, you just have to be honest, and you have to put together a really good resume which is very simple. You don't want to expand too much, but basically your people skills, what you have done before that can show them that you're responsible, that you like people, that you will be really good at this. I like to help people when they're putting their resumes together. They don't want to have them too long. They don't want to have too much other experience. They want to know how you're going to be with people. How efficient are you? Are you concerned about, being good and error-free on your job, that kind of thing. And that's the only thing I can say, but never lie, never fudge, not worth it.
Yeah. So, and then that's great feedback. Because I think you nailed a couple of things on there, especially because what it comes down to is that these companies want to make sure that you're going to represent them and their clients well. They want to know that you know what you're doing, that you have, you're competent, that you have integrity, and that you're not going to be one of those that shows up in sweatpants and bathrobes to the signings. The number 2 years or 50 signings is kind of an arbitrary number. I think somebody just picked that out and now everybody just copies it and pastes it. And it is arbitrary because on paper, I share this story about a friend of mine who is a collector of certificates and certifications. And she's been a certified loan signing agent, kept it up every single year for the last 10 years. But guess how many signings she's actually done? 0. She doesn't even know how to do a loan signing, but her profile on signingagent.com is amazing. You see that? She gets hit up all the time for loan signings because her profile is professional. She's got the picture. She looks like she is just blowing it away, but she's never done a signing. So the actual years of your experience doesn't necessarily equal ability to do this job well. So don't let that hang you up too much. What I tell people is that if you believe that you bring value to the marketplace, if you believe that you can represent that company well, if you believe that you can do this, if you believe that this business is where you're supposed to be and that it's going to be the vehicle to open up your dreams, make every other goal possible, then you have got to summon all of your experience, whether it's around real estate, whether you were a grocery store clerk, whether you were a vice president of a company, whatever that experience was that is going to help you do this job better, you need to paint that picture. Do it in integrity, exactly like Carol says. We're not going to paint this beautiful picture about doing 5,000 signings last year. That's not what this is about. This is about representing what you know that what they want, representing what they want. They want somebody who's going to represent them well and do the job correctly and own it and be a joy to work with. So if you want to, you can paint that picture. Now, here's the other side of this, guys. Sometimes these systems are automated and they're just automatically going to turn you down. And if they automatically turn you down, ask for a human being to review your file. Say, hey, thank you for that. And I totally appreciate where you're coming from and why you might have those recommendations. And here's what I bring to the table. The word dispute isn't exactly what I'm looking for, but appeal it. Appeal it. That's the word I want. Appeal that decision. Get a human being to see that you are real and that you're taking this seriously. And more often than not, that'll get you through the door, guys. They want that human connection too. There's a person behind the technology, a person behind the name badge. You want to connect with that person. The other thing to think too, guys, is don't focus on the ones that are unyielding in that. Don't focus on the ones that say, nope, that's our rule and that's it. You can get all bent out of shape. You can jump on the forums. You can complain about it, and you're going to find plenty of people who are going to complain about it with you. But that's not going to move your business forward. For every one company that says, no, we can't take you, there's going to be 10 that say, sure, come on in. Come play with us. Prove yourself. Those are the companies that you want to work with. And then get the experience that you need, and then you can go anywhere you want.
Well, one of the things that we've changed, we're always changing things the way we do business. We've been in business now, I'm in my 10th year.
Say that again.
So even though we have this great list, it does not, looks like my internet's going to go out. But it doesn't matter whether we have this great list. Believe me, our students don't just call every company and automatically get on their database. This is something they have to work for. They have to call these people, tell them about themselves, let them know who they are and what a great job they're going to do and about their background, their training, okay? But it's not that easy. We tell them you've got to call them back. Call them back in a few days. Write down the name of the person that you spoke to. That's your entrance. Whoever you talk to, see if you can talk to them again. Because we've talked about this a lot, you and I, Bill, how important the relationships are. And a relationship begins with two people, just two people getting to know each other. And so that's what we find. And the students that are really get into that mode of just call them, repeat, call them after a week and say, I just want to make sure I'm on the database. Carol says great things about your company, which I do. These are all great companies. It's important that they repeat this over and over again. Also, one of the things that I have changed, because I noticed somebody said SnapDocs. If you had asked me 2 months ago, I would have said, please don't, just avoid it. Don't get into that SnapDocs loop, which in a way I still say, because I don't want you to get so busy with $50 signings, if that's what they're offering, that you're not going to have time to work with the $125 companies, right? But I have relented a little bit in that I have seen some of my students who just want the experience. So I tell them, if you just want to get some experience behind you, just don't even plan on getting paid. Don't even think about what you're going to get paid. Just do some, get a few under your belt so that you have that experience behind you, and then keep working on getting other companies to hire you. So I have changed that way. I've taken a kind of a 180-degree turn there.
Yeah, great. Excellent feedback. And it's almost like having a paid internship.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing is, guys, there's a certain reality. Some of those signings, the loan modifications, they're all going to come in kind of low right now. That's the industry as it is. But for everybody that pays low, there's always going to be companies that pay fair. Focus on those companies. And I kind of shared this in this morning's office hours for my course, is that I met a guy, he's not in either one of our courses, actually. He's just kind of blazing his own path. But he says that at the end of the day, he does the math. Even at $30 to $50 a signing, he's gaining tons of experience. And when he deducts his printing and his fuel, he's still making more money than he would make in an office. And it's not even about the money necessarily. It's about the freedom and the flexibility. That's more important to him, is not having to be in an office all day, every day, or a warehouse or call center or whatever it is. So everybody's goal is a little bit different on that. And that's the beautiful thing about the business. That's why we're here. The flexible schedule, the unlimited income, and the legitimacy and the awesomeness of this business. That's why we're here. Let's see. Some ask for, I'm going to let you guys kind of talk that out in the chat window. We'll move on here to the next question. That was a great one to start with. Okay, let's see what this says. Thanks again. A couple of questions on fees. When filling out the applications for these signing companies, they ask for our fees. What might be sort of the industry standard for the following here? I don't know, Carol, do we want to get in here and talk about industry standards for these fees, or do you want to give just kind of an overall feedback?
Here's what I would suggest, because I really don't. I actually do have something that I share with my students, but it's just sort of a guide, just a little guide, because I sure don't want to get into trouble. I don't fix fees. I don't tell people what they're supposed to charge. What I do tell them is go on to Notary Rotary and take a look at people that are in their zip code. See if they have websites. A lot of people put their fees on their websites. That will give you kind of an idea for your area, because there's a huge difference between Oklahoma and Manhattan and San Diego and South Dakota, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I tell them if they want to do some research on the fees. When you get into things like piggyback loans and things like that, it's pretty easy to figure out once you've got your base fees, like single overnight fees. Who does single overnight fees anymore? They don't. Yeah. That was when we used to get the documents shipped to us by Federal Express, and there they were, and we had the copies. We didn't have to print. We didn't have to do any of that. That was great. And I think we got paid back then like $75, I think, for the most part, and then you added whatever there was extras, fax backs or something. But anyway, that's kind of what I tell my students. That'll be a really good guide for them to see what people in their area are charging. And a lot of people have those fees on their websites.
Yeah, they'll post them on their website. But here's the thing too, guys. When it comes to signing companies, I guarantee you that who's ever scheduling is not going into your profile and checking out your fees and seeing what you're going to pay. They have decided how much they're going to pay for a transaction. They have the guidelines for what needs to get done on that transaction, and they're sending it out. So what you put in there almost doesn't matter, because they're just going to say, hey, I've got this refinance signing. It's out here. Here's the zip code. It's paying $80. Will you take it? I need docs back as soon as possible. You say yes, you say no, and that's it. You can negotiate, but they're not going through and they're not looking at all this. So it's not worth stressing out about too much. Do the due diligence, do the research, see what it is. But when it comes to signing companies, they're not even going to look at it. Now, this one I posted because I was hoping that maybe we have somebody on the call that's from Texas that can give us the answer on this one, because I don't know the answer. Carol's in California, so we may not know this one specifically. All I know, so it says, in Texas, if I'm a wedding officiant, can I notarize the bride and groom's signatures on their wedding license? And I don't see necessarily why not, as long as you're not also signing that document. If you're notarizing it and you have signed it, you cannot notarize your own signature. So that's the only issue I see there. Anybody from Texas that is a wedding officiant that can answer this? We'll have to do some more research on this one. Carol, where do we get acknowledgement and jurat forms?
From your Secretary of State's office. Just go online. You can download them. I suggest that everyone carry extras with them all the time. And I like these separate acknowledgements, providing your state has them, where you can put on that acknowledgement at the bottom, usually, what document it's attached to, if there's extra signers on that document. I do have a generic form on our graduates website, and that seems to work in every state, and it's a protective device. Anytime that you're attaching a separate acknowledgement, you want to designate exactly what document it's designated for, because otherwise it could be used on something that you don't want it used on. That brings up another thing, and I think we've talked about it. I'm old, forgive me. But when you are requested by a lender in the documents, they give you a form and they want you to sign it and stamp it, just be aware of the fact that that's absolutely a no-no. And I've even had some of the students will make a little stamp, but I used to make little sticky things that when I did have that happen, I would stick it on there. I have no problem signing it, but you're not allowed ever to stamp anything, especially within the confines of your notarial certificate, that is not being used as to notarize somebody's signature. So the best way to handle that is to just put a little note, put a stamp, whatever that says, it is illegal for me to apply my seal to this document. I can only do that when I'm notarizing something. And let them know, and don't ever let somebody talk you into or threaten you if you didn't do it, because you don't want your stamp. It's illegal for you to do, and you don't want your stamp out there not being attached to a proper document that you've recorded.
Absolutely. And guys, this does actually happen. There's still lenders that do it. They do it for efficiency purposes in the event that there's an error on one of your notary acknowledgments. Hopefully, that's what we're hoping. But it is illegal in every state that I know of to provide a notarial certificate that is fully executed, stamped, and signed that is not attached to an actual document. So even though they include it, and again, we talk about this during our NNA test-taking parties because we don't have to make a federal case out of it. I usually use it as an opportunity to be proactive. I'll usually call the closing agent or the lender and just say, hey, I see this extra acknowledgement form here, but there's no document with it. Is something missing? And they'll either say, no, we just include that, so you'll sign and stamp it. And then I laugh, and well, I can't do that. That's against the law. So, and they say, yeah, don't worry about it. So, and then that's that. Or if there have been some occasions where like, holy crap, that was supposed to go to this document. Thank you for pointing it out. And they'll email that over. So you can use it as an opportunity to be a hero or just not sign and stamp it.
Melissa asks if I have wording for, I do actually, I won't look at it now, but if you'd like to send me an email or call me, I'll be happy to give it to you.
Great. Excellent.
And somebody says, I'm confused. What type of document am I referring to? And I think you just explained that it's not a document itself. It's just a notarial acknowledgement that you would normally fill out and attach to a document that doesn't have one, but they just want you to sign it and stamp it because they want to use it just in case they've done something to the other one or lost it or something.
Exactly. All right. Is there a federal law that prohibits taking digital photos of someone's ID due to privacy concerns? Here, I'll just jump in. I don't think there's a federal law against it. I don't even think there's going to be state laws, but again, that's your responsibility to find out. For
CFPB.
Yes, for the privacy of information, I don't think it specifically says you can't take a photo of it, but you're ultimately responsible for the security of that information. So what you do with it, you got to make sure it's sent either securely uploaded, which is the ideal, or sent via secure email. And then of course you want to delete it and do it. It's not the most ideal way to take somebody's information. Some clients, that's just the system that they have. Ideally, what you're going to do is the borrower is going to make a copy of their own driver's license and have that available to you. That's the most secure way to do that. Carol, do you have some input on that as well?
No, all of those, because we've talked about this a lot of times over the last year or so, since CFPB, which is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, has come up with all of these rules and laws and everything that have to do with consumer privacy. But we meaning my friends, cohorts, Laura, we have been able to find anything that's federally mandated that you cannot do things. But it does put people at risk if they take copies of people's IDs. Military IDs you cannot copy.
Right.
You're not allowed to. So if you're taking pictures of somebody's IDs, driver's license, whatever, that leaves you vulnerable if anybody were to get in a hold of your camera, your phone. They could get information off of that, which would put you in danger because it would be your responsibility if their privacy was breached.
So you just want to make sure if that's what has to get done, business has to get done as well. So you just have to know that you want to delete that from your phone. But then also if you've got automatic upload to your cloud, so whether it's iCloud or Google Drive or whatever it is, you got to make sure that you go in and delete those photographs from there as well, because that ultimately you are responsible. So if something happens and it gets tracked back to you, the buck stops here.
You know, I want to bring up something that I'm kind of passionate about.
Sure.
It's kind of off key a little bit here, but it has to do with the CFPB. They've made a lot of rulings the last few years. One of the things they came up with that most of you should be aware of is the new closing disclosure and how it's supposed to be provided to the borrower 72 hours in advance of documents. Now, Bill, I don't know how much you've run into this or how much other people have run into it. I certainly hear from my students that they see this happen, that we're taking documents to people who have not seen that closing disclosure until we walk into their house with it. They are not being provided that 72 hours. And one of the things that I have is a whistleblower's phone number for CFPB. And I'm a staunch believer that we should take advantage of that. And that if we see certain lenders, which I will not name here, doing this repeatedly, which I do, I don't know if you've seen this, but there are certain lenders, a handful of them, that will wait until the documents are delivered to the borrower via signing agent before they ever see that closing disclosure. And I believe, and I'll share that phone number with anybody, I believe that we should start reporting this, because if you've walked into someone's home, they have no idea what's on those papers or any ideas to the terms of their loan, when that is mandated that it's supposed to be delivered to them 72 hours in advance, then it should be.
Well, yeah, I totally agree. I'm not experiencing that on this side. Now, I will say, it appears because the documents have to be signed electronically, they can't even generate docs at some lenders until that electronic signature is received. So there's some safeguards in that place. I'm sure there's some workarounds, obviously, for lenders that don't use that level of technology. But also what I find too is that a lot of consumers are overwhelmed with the process and don't realize what they've signed electronically. So when we get there, it looks like they haven't signed anything. If I bring that up to the closing agent, they'll show me the automated signature that says, yeah, he signed off on it. And it has the date and timestamp. You know, they use DocuSign usually for those things. So there could be some miscommunication, but I totally agree with you. If there's a lender taking advantage of borrowers and bypassing the law, then I think in some ways, while it's probably a gray area legally, I think we have a responsibility as an independent representative of the people to report those things. So I would love to have that whistleblower number.
Yep. I'll give it to anybody who wants it, because I just think it's wrong, and it has to be. If we don't report it, who will? Yeah,
exactly.
And this is a big lender.
And the consumer has no idea what the laws are. They just don't. Yep, great points. Great points. All right, let's do the next one. Can you please tell me how to handle payment process? Hold on, I got to move the chat window here. For general notary work and notary signing agent work. Can we talk about that a little bit, Carol? Like, what's payment like for a loan signing agent? What's the payment process?
Well, the payment process is generally, you don't even have to issue an invoice to most companies. The fees are set. You have the confirmation in your confirmation form. All of that's taken care of, and it's just a matter of them mailing you a check. Some of them are doing the electronic transfers right into your bank account. My experience, of course, because it's been a long time since I've done signings, was always that we just got the check in the mail. And for those of you who've seen the video that my daughter and I did for the signing, you remember the money at the end of the video, because I always loved going to the mailbox every day and getting checks. I think for general notary work, a lot of people are using things like Square, which is pretty efficient. They carry their own little, card reader on their phone and everything for it. I don't know how most people are doing it, but I would say for notary signing agents, generally checks.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. Since I started this business, I love walking to the mailbox. Almost every single day there is money in that mailbox. It's totally changed my paradigm walking to the mailbox. What I will say, though, so to complement what Carol's saying, yes, if you're going to be an independent contractor working for signing companies, they're going to pay you kind of on their schedule as well. They usually track everything. I'll have a backup form so I know what I've been paid on, what I haven't been paid on. But they'll either pay you out bi-weekly, monthly, sometimes it's 30 to 45 days after. It just kind of depends on their individual policies. When it comes to escrow direct, though, those you do have to provide an invoice for. And the reason that generating and sending the invoice is the fourth thing that I do right after a signing while I'm sitting in my car is I never want people to have to wait to pay me. So I will generate for my escrow direct clients, I will generate the invoice right then and send it off. It'll have the client name, maybe the escrow number, just depending on what the client wants, and the amount of the payment. Because some of those signings, especially for purchases, they're going to be closed out maybe that day or the next day. And the escrow officer needs a tangible invoice in their hand to cut a check for you. So just get in the habit for your escrow direct to send the invoice immediately or include it with the documents when you send it over, whatever you choose. When it comes to general notary work, I'm sorry, go ahead, Carol.
No, I didn't need to interrupt. Go ahead.
When it comes to general notary work, I see we got a lot of people chatting about that in the chat window. That's great. Zelle is now my favorite way to receive money for that. If you have one of the major banks, now even some of the credit unions are using Zelle. It's a no-fee way to transfer money between consumers. Also, you could have a Square or PayPal has a credit card processing machines, whatever it is that way to generate credit cards. I much prefer cash, of course, but if somebody doesn't have cash, you want to have a backup plan like credit card processor of some kind.
I was going to add something, just a little piece of advice if anybody is new out there and just doesn't know. There are problems nowadays, people getting paid. Sometimes it does take a long time. Even with good companies, there's issues. One of the things that I always suggest to people is, of course, keep your paperwork. I advise that you keep your loan documents on a flash drive, not on your computer, but put it on a flash drive. Keep it. I kept mine for a month after I got paid, just in case something came up or happened. But if you're not getting paid, one of the best things that you'll derive from keeping the paperwork is information, such as the contact information and order number and everything for the title company. That's one of the ways for you to get your money if you're dealing with signing service that you're having a difficult time with, and they're obviously not willing to pay you for a while, if ever. You can go straight to the title company, and if you've got that information and you always retain that until after you've been paid, it will help you. I mean, there's always things like Legal Shield, and you can have them write a letter, the attorney write a letter. But I found that calling a title company and complaining about that signing service works really well.
Yeah, or just sending just copying the escrow officer on the transaction in an email to the signing company, get you paid like that.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing to them. They don't want that kind of history because that could affect their long-term client.
Mm-hmm.
All right, great. Let's move on here. When doing a loan signing, if there's a spot for a witness to sign a document where the borrowers had to sign, do we as notaries sign as witness?
Some states you can, some states you can't.
Yeah, and then also, so that's very, very, very state specific, but also know that there's going to be there may be a witness line there, even in states where there are no witnesses required. So these are boilerplate templates, guys. So not every line is going to apply to your transaction, unfortunately. So you do have to know what's required in your state.
Florida, for one, we just know automatically they require 2 witnesses on all of the conveyance or security items that are being recorded.
I think Florida and Louisiana are the 2 that I know for sure, and there's probably more out there as well.
I think Louisiana is by parish, though. That's the weirdest state. Sorry, people.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, you have to have like a law degree to even become a notary. It's crazy. I honor the Louisiana notaries for sure. All right, let's see. Have either of you heard of loan signing agents having success marketing to real estate agents by going to open houses? Carol, any word or feedback on this?
Yeah, I think it's a great place to get to know people. Real estate agents, they can have a big influence on who gets their signings for their deals. And why not go to their open houses? Chat, get to know them, give them your business card. You never know what's going to come of it.
Yeah, so when we start thinking big picture, guys, having relationships with real estate agents and lenders really can be beneficial for everybody involved. So I think this is really good next level thinking. Every real estate agent has at least one favorite escrow officer, and they usually have 3 because they need backups. So building this kind of network in there is going to pay off very, very well. Now, Carol had talked earlier about the importance of scheduling phone calls, building a relationship, staying in touch with people. Guys, that fortune is in the follow-up. That cliche exists because it works. You want to do that. And having a network like this that you're staying connected with, I call it my top of mind strategy or my TOM method. Keep yourself top of mind with these real estate agents, with these lenders, with these escrow officers. So constantly stay in touch with them. If you're going to go through the effort of going to an open house and meeting somebody, take the time to stay in touch with them. That's a huge amount of effort to go to open houses on your Sundays, because that's usually when open houses are going to be taking place, or on the weekends, that personal connection is going to pay off if you stay in touch, if you stay top of mind. And on this note as well, remember that if we approach this as being of service, then we need to find ways to constantly bring value to the relationship. And there's lots of ways to do that. But if we were to think, all right, who's the decision makers in our sphere of influence are escrow officers. They're the ones that are deciding who's going to be the closing agent. We know that. So for real estate agents, what are they looking for? They're looking for people who are going to buy and sell their homes. So if we can be the facilitator of those transactions, if we can start referring people to real estate agents or loan officers, that's how a real solid foundation will come through. So always be thinking, become a connector in your community. Be the one that says, hey, John just posted that he's looking for a good real estate agent, and I just met Bob at this open house. I wonder if I could connect them. That's the kind of next level thinking that will build, really strengthen your network.
Well, somebody just mentioned that she's never dressed properly when she goes past these open houses. And that brings me back what Laura has talked about, which is something that I never did. but it's a good idea. She's always dressed and prepared to be professional in case people, hear her conversations or realize who she, what she does, and then looking for her. I'm sorry, but away from my business, I'm just who I am. But I think it's a good idea, especially if you do that, aim at doing that, going out on Sundays and going to some of these open houses. But she's right. I think it was Teresa that said that you need to be dressed properly when you go in. You need to have more of a professional appearance than, slopping around in your floppies and your jeans. So anyway, that was just a thought when she said that.
No,
also, one other thing, I'm going to give out my email address because I see that some of you have asked for the whistleblowers, and a couple of other people asked for what I put on the little note about not putting your seal on. The best email for me is notary, 2, pro@gmail.com. And I'll just reply to your emails if you want to send me that.
Yep, great. And then I also want to talk a little bit more about closing. And Melissa, thank you so much for saying it. It's my tagline, be ready for yes at all times. You are in business and you never know when business is going to be in front of you. So obviously, guys, that doesn't mean that you can't go out casual. That doesn't mean that you can't go to the gym in your gym apparel and then you might see a open house or something. There's a couple of ways to handle that. You can pop in that way and let them know. There's ways to communicate things authentically that might be part of the conversation. Or you could run home and change real quick or whatever you're more comfortable with. There's always, always, always a workaround. You just have to decide whether you want to do that or not. And then as far as referral fees, no, guys, one thing that you'll find about the real estate industry, especially with lenders and real estate agents and escrow officers, is they're not in it for the little $50, $60. They're in it for this is a relationship-based business. Real estate agents, the thriving ones already know that. Loan officers, the thriving ones, they already know that. They're in it for the long-term relationship. They're not in it for $50 from you. So you don't have to pay anybody. They want to introduce people to others that might help benefit everybody. They're in it for the long-term commitment and relationship. You might bring value to a real estate agent's business. So they're willing to make those connections if they believe that you're bringing value to the relationship. So that's what you want to focus on.
Oh, I forgot the one question that was asked that I was going to answer, which was also part of what I'm excited about. Okay, Arthur Mendez sent me an email and asked me a question. He's a new agent, newly certified, and he's been working with one company in particular he's been getting a lot of work from really steadily. And he was very confused because he told them that he speaks Spanish. And when they were looking for a Spanish-speaking signing agent, they went to Notary Rotary, and they ended up hiring him and told him they found him through Notary Rotary when he's already been doing all kinds of signings for him and stuff. So I don't know why they would do that, okay? But that was his question. I don't know why they did that. But I do want everybody to know that what we're going to be doing, everybody knows we have this Notary to Pro Spanish now, and I want all of our graduates to know that if you speak Spanish, we're going to start an elite list of all of you who speak Spanish. We're going to put it on the Spanish website. We're going to get it out to a lot of companies so that they will know that they can go there and they can find well-trained Spanish-speaking notaries. And Bill, if you have that too, I'd like to offer that to you too for your people. If
Fantastic.
They speak Spanish, we can collaborate on it.
Yeah, that's great. Love that. It blows my mind that the industry doesn't have this yet, so I'm glad you're blazing the path there.
Oh, I'm excited about this. Ugh.
Excellent. Now let's see if we can squeeze maybe one more in here. What is Pavaso, and is it worth it in California? Carol, what's your take?
Yes. I haven't taken the training myself, but I can tell you the first time I heard about it was from Mark Fleming, who is the owner of Signature Closers. He has a they have a wonderful reputation. This is one of those companies that's just stand out and has been for many, many, many years. He's got his little problems, just keeping up with the markets and everything. But he put it out there. He sent me an email once and he said, you need to get everybody on this Pavaso. There's going to be a lot of work on it. And I have a lot of the graduates that have taken the training. I think this is going to be a big deal. It has to do with the electronic. I honestly don't know. I want to take the training myself. I'll bet you I've got somebody out there that could tell us a little bit about it. Judy, did you take it? No? Anybody?
I took it. It's really easy, self-explanatory. Just take the training. It's really worth it. It's a difference between you have wet sign documents for some states. You have to figure out which state, you have to figure out what your state will accept. There's e-sign and wet sign documents. It's really, really, really easy.
Yep, and Pavaso is basically a platform for these electronic signatures. So a lot of times when you see the hybrid signings where some of it's on your laptop or a tablet and some of it's actually paper, like the notarized paperwork will actually be in your hand. This is the platform that actually makes that all possible. Definitely worth it, probably in all 50 states. It's just another one of those, if it's allowed in all 50 states. If it's allowed in your state, definitely do it. Sometimes some states you can't even do electronic stuff. So definitely look into it. It's just another one of those things in your toolkit that you can use to create income streams. Guys, that brings us right up to the 10 o'clock hour, my time, 9 o'clock Pacific. Guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to grow yourself and your business. Carol, thank you for being here and adding so much to the conversation. I know you're busy, and it really means a lot that you take time out of your day for us.
Well, I want to add one thing to my graduates out there. On our merchants page in the graduates website, you guys can go to Bill. You get your first month for free. And I'd love to see everybody go to his very positive training. He offers so much, so far beyond. I'm kind of foundation person. I'm not going to change much. But Bill takes you to a really wonderful other level. I really want to encourage my students to go to you, Bill.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. I love that I do it. I love that we've connected this way. And also, I got a private message from one of your students on the reverse mortgages. I know.
Did you send that to me?
I'm creating the offer. I'm going to send that out today. I apologize for the delay, guys.
I'm going to email it out tonight to everybody.
Yeah, we'll get that out, and that's I'm excited to have you all there. I want to get you guys all certified in the reverse mortgage signing professional certification, and I can't wait to see where that goes this year. All right, guys, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll catch up with you later.
Bye-bye.